Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the Wright Flyer. As always, this is your captain, Randy Wright speaking, and I'd like to take this opportunity to personally thank you for choosing to fly over the friendly airwaves with us here at our state-of-the-art radio program, Radio Aviation Excellence, the Wright Flyer. Now, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, let's go ahead and delve into the topic which I have slated to be the cornerstone for this episode of our program, as I think it's an important one. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the standoff in Canada continues. This is because the federal government in Canada is refusing to lift the vaccine mandate that has been at the heart of this, and Justin Trudeau is continuing his rather haughty and arrogant position. Namely, he is refusing to talk to the truckers. He's continuing to refer to them as racists, and he's basically even beginning to lose support within the ranks of his own Liberal Party. But there's something more to be said about this entire standoff, something that rests at the heart of this entire debate, and that is the gulf that has developed between liberty-loving individuals and the totalitarians who wish for us to be in a perpetual state of fear and instability. This difference and this growing gulf is the direct result of what I fear is quickly becoming irreconcilable differences. They view the world entirely differently than we do. And we can see this from how they still cling to false narratives, they continue to move the goalposts, and they refuse to give us concrete dates on a timeline as to when normality can return to the facets of our daily lives. There's reasons for this. I think the main reason that they don't want to do this is that it's the way to maintain their vice-like grip on power. We see it day in and day out. They continue to move the goalposts. They have been doing this for 2 years, and it's because they don't want to give up on that power. But if you've been paying careful attention, there's been a major shift in a lot of this. In the U.S., there have been major blue areas that have started to completely remove their mandates in totality. They're pushing for the midterms to have this complete and total reversal on an off-ramp so that they can claim that they're doing well. In fact, they're already saying that it's because of Biden's positions and the Democrat Party's positions and the liberal positions that we have managed to defeat the disease, or if not totally defeat the disease, then we're going to now be able to live with it as it's become endemic. It's funny because the positions they're assuming now are the same positions that those of us in red areas and those of us who have wanted to return to normality very early on to preserve our fundamental and inalienable rights assumed a long time ago. The ones that they lambasted us for, the ones that the tech oligarchs would call attempting to kill grandma, for want of a better term, these are all the positions that were there, that they hated, but now they're assuming it because they've looked at polling data and that they've seen that this movement, this freedom convoy that is up there in Canada, is spreading worldwide as people are sick to death of the authoritarian and overbearing attempts by government to control the facets of our daily lives. We've known this. We've seen this. We've warned them that this would be the case. But they don't care. Ultimately, they don't care. And that has been how things are going. But still, Trudeau refuses to move on it. Trudeau refuses to give an inch because he has expended so much political capital on this already that would be a losing position for him. Already, the pillars of power are teetering for him. He's feeling the weight of this, and it is to a point that he's losing ground, and he knows it. He knows it. But he can't bring himself to do it. He can't bring himself to do the right thing. Even though, if he did, it would probably be the one and only thing that he could do to salvage his position right now. But he, of course, refuses to do that. And so now, as a result, the Ambassador Bridge there in Detroit, between Detroit and Windsor, Ontario, the busiest land border between the United States and Canada, has been blockaded by the truckers because their demands are still being unmet. Now, they're starting to be met at the provincial level, but they are still not being met by the federal government as Trudeau digs in his heels. And now this is creating problems for the union types here in the United States because the U.S. auto industry is now being crippled because a lot of the big threes, and not just the big threes, but also Honda and Toyota, have manufacturing in Ontario and Toronto, and they also receive parts from Canada. So this major artery, this major thoroughfare of commerce between the United States and our great white neighbor to the north is being impacted by the stubborn, stalwart nature of Trudeau and his policies. And that is spelling problems for the U.S. auto industry. Part of the reason this is spelling issues or disaster for the U.S. auto industry is we've already had that computer chip shortage that has caused new vehicles to be on a shortage, which has caused an already inflation-fueled fire to get worse with respect to used cars, because that is now exceedingly expensive. So just like everything with this Biden regime here in the United States, the costs are going through the roof. And it's the American people who are hemorrhaging this through the pocketbooks that are feeling this. And in a midterm election, that's bad. That's bad for the party that's in power. Of course, the Democrats realize this, and that's why they're running forth screaming, "Henny penny, the sky is falling," because they know this is a disaster. Still, they want to ensure that their liberal ally there in Trudeau remains in power, remains safe by and large. And so they are offering to give him help in whatever way they can. But at the same time, we know that with the disaster of the GoFundMe issue that I've already done an episode on, and if you haven't seen that, go to the channel and watch it. It's interesting. But the Give, Send, Go, the Christian crowdfunding site, has already managed to raise millions of dollars after the GoFundMe debacle. And so now the Canadian government, wringing its hand, well, not the Canadian government, but more particularly the government there in Ottawa and in Ontario, have pushed to seize the funds that have been raised by Give, Send, Go. Well, while they haven't really pushed to seize it, they've certainly pushed to freeze it. They've gotten a court injunction. Now, to their credit, the owners of Give, Send, Go have stated on Twitter that the Canadian government has no authority over a United States company, and that they deal directly with the parties that the donations have been made to. Now, they're still going to attempt there in Canada to seize this, because governments of that nature and status types always attempt to flex their muscles and attempt to grab power and always attempt to get more money, because deep down, They're corrupt thieves. It's always been that way, but still, the powers that be are desperate to get rid of this movement. They're desperate to get rid of it, particularly with the close of the busiest land crossing between US and Canada. As I mentioned already, it's been pressuring the US auto industry. And so the Biden administration is feeling this, and they are leaning heavily on Trudeau, saying end it. But don't end it by giving the people what they want. These elitist types never do want that. They want to maintain their power come hell or high water, and so that's the position they will maintain till kingdom come. But Governor Gretchy, there in Michigan, has even offered to provide heavy equipment to the Canadian authorities to remove the truckers from the Ambassador Bridge. I guess we can count this as a high water moment for totalitarians and potentates everywhere. Because what they are doing here is they are moving together so that they can hold hands in solidarity and unity against a movement that merely wishes to ply their avocation, their profession, without draconian and authoritarian restrictions upon them. Restrictions that it has been shown time and again do not work. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why would these people do this? They do this because they have no other original thought. Authoritarians have a singular tracked mind, a one-track mind, and they refuse to bend from it. As such, they become obdurate and obstinate. They become just wholly inflexible, and they attempt to project their failings onto everyone else. Projectionism and falsity. Those are the twin pillars that could rightly define what the Trudeau government's stance has been here, much as it can be used to define the stance of the Biden administration over and over again to the point of it reaching ad nauseum. And there's no escaping that fact. Of course, they will wave their hands and they'll say, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain or the thing, and we don't want to misgender it, as they continue to double down on their failed public policy positions. It's undeniable at this point. It's inexorable. It's inescapable. It is there, plain as day for us all to see. Yet they will continue because they think they have a mandate. Of course, the mandates that they've foisted upon us are the ones that are tyrannical, are the ones that have no support or basis in freedom or liberty or logic. But they are based in fear. And they are based in self-loathing and lack of self-reflection and self-awareness. It's sickening. And despite the growing pressure, the Canadian government still refuses to do the right thing and to lift the mandates. If they lifted the mandates right here and right now, this would be over. The truckers have even said as much. They just want to be able to live their lives and to carry out their livelihoods, because their livelihoods have been destroyed. Over the course of 2 years, these draconian measures have lambasted our economy. They have laid it open. They have laid waste to it. And yet these are the same governments that sat there and knelt in solidarity with those quote-unquote protesters, truly the rioters, in the summer of love, who burnt city after city, who engaged in wanton and inexplicable violence. The hypocrisy knows no bounds. But this is the face of the movement that exists. This is the face, the bald-faced hypocrisy that is staring all of us in the face right now. That is what these radical leftists have given us. And ladies and gentlemen, it's sickening. It is sickening. Trudeau looks like a clown up there in Canada right now, much like Biden looks like a clown. It is a disgrace wherever these people are. And you know, the funny thing is, Trudeau lacks a self-awareness to see that even in the provinces around him, one by one, the dominoes are falling. Alberta has removed the mandates. Quebec has removed the mandates, and Quebec was one of the worst of all. And here it is in even California, they're removing mask mandates. Why? It's because the people have had enough. The people have had enough of this. We've had 2 years of 15 days to flatten the curve, and the curve was never flattened because you can't do it with that kind of virus. If you could, you'd only need a singular vaccine for the flu. Influenza is a coronavirus. The common cold is a coronavirus. They're fast mutating. Herd immunity, however, will allow this thing to burn itself out, just like SARS-1 did. And remember, these were the voices that you used to be able to talk about, and the positions you used to have reasonable discussions about prior to the big tech oligarchs marching lockstep in jackbooted thuggery. Because science is about questioning. The scientific method is completely about questioning. It's about testing hypotheses. Well, how do you test something? You question it. But that's the thing. This monolithic culture they're attempting to foist upon us, that they are attempting to force us to accept, is not about science, it's about authority. And again, the difference between the treatment of the Freedom Convoy and BLM is both staggering and disgusting. And it goes to show that we are just seeing more of the same with this. Yet it's not at all surprising. It has always been this way. There has always been a double standard, and they are banking on that double standard staying in place. They are banking on the legacy media just allowing things to stay the way they always have. Well, enough. Enough is enough. The truckers have shown that they are in this for the long haul. The left is busy attempting to reframe the entire narrative as they feel that the political winds and popular opinion is finally turning against them. And how can it not be? This result became inevitable, ladies and gentlemen, when it was clear that the government would continue to ignore the will of the people. Normality has to return, and it has to return sooner rather than later. That is the reality that Justin Trudeau needs to accept. That is the reality that needs to spread throughout the free world. And any hesitation that we've seen with this is a mere reflection of the shortcomings of their failed public policy positions. It is high past time that we allow people to get back to their lives, that we stop restricting our daily lives, that we allow our economies to thrive, and that we turn our backs on the failed public policy positions, the frothing at the mouth Fabian socialist leftists. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we here at the Wright Flyer have been stressing that we have to be proactive in the midterm elections that are slated for this November. Because it is the only way that we are ever going to get past this type of chicanery, and that we can allow normality to return to our daily lives. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for choosing to fly over the friendly airwaves with us here at the Wright Flyer. I hope to see you again the next time we do so. Please do take care. See you around.